Super. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everyone. And thanks again for being here. I'm really, really excited about what we're going to share with you today. So look, good morning. It's 9:30 a.m. here. It's 8:30 p.m. in Australia, where Maria is, and is going to bring all the information you need around the Coaching for Employability qualification. We're really excited about bringing this qualification, the Job Coach Certificate and the Pearls Programme, to the UK with our partners in Bounce. And it's been about a year in the making, actually. We've spent quite a bit of time discussing how we would bring this to the UK, how we would land it effectively, and how we would make sure this was available for everyone to be involved with. Thanks absolutely to Maria, Kelly, Donna, and Helen, Emma, and Heather, and for working so hard to make sure that this is available and that we got to this point today. Like, it's great learning in a sector where coaching is absolutely key to the success, but there's no real support that is employability specific and learning and activity to take place for that learning. So now there is, and isn't it really, really great? So I'd like to hand over to Maria, who is always absolutely wonderful. Maria from Bounce, thank you.
Thank you, Scott, and good morning, everyone. And it's, good evening from central Victoria in Australia, just 2 hours north of Melbourne. So shout out to anyone that's come down this way. I have to say, I was excited to see Durham because I have been to Durham, but it was a very quick, like 5-day trip flying in to Scotland and then training to Durham, which I'd never been to the UK. So, but what an amazing short visit, but I will be back in June. So I'm really excited. Actually, I've never been to London and exploring and everything like that. So I am so excited to be here. And Scott, it's been an amazing journey to get to this point where we're now launching this coaching skills program. So I actually wanted to really talk through a bit of a, my sort of background and history and what has me be here. But I also want to talk about the distinctions of the coaching program and what you can expect to get out of that as well. And the two different programs that we've got on offer. So just a little brief history about me. I actually, I've been coaching and training for about 25 years. And I've just been in this space for me where my passion's been about people and behavior. So really passionate around the behavioral change piece, my curiosity around, how people change, how people think, behave, and change. And so that sort of context has really driven what I do in the world. I started my company Bounce in 2006. I'd actually been living in the US and came back to my hometown. And upon my return, found myself looking for work. And what was really interesting is I was applying for jobs in the training sector and not being able to get a look in. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I came from a background of training, coaching, and recruitment. And I found that there I was in my hometown, which had the 4th highest unemployment rate in the country. And there I was thinking, well, what's next? So it was about sort of pulling all these strengths together and, leaning into a development of a program, which is the Bounce program, which is a soft skills development program. So in that context, it was a training, coaching program for those that had been, very long-term unemployed. And today we run it as a licensed program and do train the trainer. And over the time of sort of being in that space, what I found really interesting is even the coaching clients I'd had from all walks of life, that there are really specific things we can do in order to engage with people, engage with our clients, and facilitate changing from a deep intrinsic space. So flash forward to 2022. I shouldn't say flash forward because we've actually had a ton of rain. And as you would know, there's been floods up north and we are under a bit of a rainy, bizarre, muggy weather right now. But if you go to today, what we do now in our coaching skills program is really everything that I've taken in my career, but also really specifically in working with people that have had multiple barriers to employment, generational poverty, generational unemployment, And in a lot of ways in Australia, I suppose we're known for engaging disengaged people. So people who are like, I don't really want to work, or they don't know what they don't know. So I'm really passionate about the science and what the foundation is to what changes people's thinking, or what is like intrinsically motivating people forward. So when I designed the job coach program, it really came down to the fact that what do I know has worked in the context of people that I've worked with from all walks of life. Today, I'm an executive coach, so I coach fairly senior officials, in particular in public service or government officials, and I love that work. So really impacting people that are out there, having an impact in Australia as well. And even, you know, I delivered an information session locally in our lockdown, before we had a lockdown, to talk about, you know, the bounce program. And even in that context of sitting and being with clients who had found themselves unemployed for many, many years, as recent as last year, the conversation was still this space of like, how do we get deeply connected and engaged with participants, and then have them become the intrinsic desire to want to change, or behaviourally, what must they do in order to be connected to the goals and the purpose. So I suppose in a nutshell, the program is really looking at how, you know, how do we take our coaching skills to that next level and move ourselves into the coaching conversations that allow people to begin to think about what they want to do differently. So I actually wanted to start with sharing a bit of a screen share. I'm just going to find my thing, because I think it's really important to understand when we're talking about change and how we approach change, that we think about what's going on for our clients, or whenever we're talking to anyone. And everything I'm going to share with you here is pretty much what you can share in any communication or conversation you might be having. So you can see my screen up here, and there's System 1 and System 2. And I just want to give you a bit of context. So one of my favorite books is Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a nice thick one, but really, really amazing book, and I highly recommend it. Inside our program, we've got a huge reference list of books to read and resources, and where things are backed up by evidence, it's there. What I love about Daniel Kahneman's work is that he really looked at the brain and how people do what they do. So when we talk about the idea of, when I'm thinking about change, what am I actually doing? When I'm thinking about change, what's going to motivate me? So simply put, System 1 is the part of the brain that's by default lazy. So it's our limbic emotional brain. So the memories and values and all things are stored in there. In our program, we really drive into this sort of science piece. But what I want you to think about is sort of key takeaways that you can start integrating into your own skills now, is that when we actually think about our clients who may be in System 1, which is uses a lot of energy. So it requires energy to use, but it wants to conserve the energy. So what it means is that it will want to look for shortcuts or habits. So a good example is in the health and wellbeing industry, or let's go with the weight loss industry, the multi-billion-dollar weight loss industry. When people want to change, and we say, oh, I'm going to go and no longer eat chocolate muffins. And then suddenly it's afternoon tea and someone brings them in and we decide, oh, we're going to eat the chocolate muffins. But we decided the day before we wouldn't. That's a good example of how the brain just shortcuts to going, it's easy, it's simple. The brain loves ease and convenience. So when we have meal plans and we have a plan and a strategy, we're engaging our System 2. And therefore, we're more likely to be engaged in the activity of doing the thing, because we've got a plan and we're able to override the default, the automatic habit of, I'll just eat that muffin. So when we think about this in context to our clients and the people we're working with, the people we want to be helping, if we suddenly start getting them to be in that emotional thinking, right? When we start getting them to reflect on their own sense of what do they want, or where they want to be, or what's important to them, we're starting to drive them into a reflective place of thinking. If we bombard with questions and questions that aren't intrinsically motivated, people can tend to shut down. So what's really important is that we think about how we're approaching our clients. So there's a whole process of what we do inside the job coach system, which is all about understanding the clear state. So who am I being as a coach? What's my state of mind? How am I perceiving my clients? And am I the barrier to the outcome? So am I seeing them as limited or stuck? And how do I overcome that? What are the strategies in place? Now, we've got our other mini program, the Pearl system, is actually the pre-session ritual program. It's all about, even if you were just doing that program, it's all about the things that I can do to prep myself in order to be the best job coach I can be in that moment. So everything that happens inside System 1 as a coach, these are the things we have to be thinking about. What am I thinking, or how am I behaving, or what am I looking for in my clients? So this is why there's a really big piece around this pearls or the pre-session ritual, because being the best self you can be means that you're going to be in the listening. And the key here is that you're activating System 2. See, System 2 is the part of our brain that requires that reflective, it's very rational, logical, and it's also the planner and the action taker. But these two together have to work. And in the context to helping our clients make decisions, we actually need to create the decisions with ease and convenience. So, for example, if you were to think about your own decisions, so it's 9:46 in the morning there. So maybe morning tea is coming up, and you might have the decision to just go, I'm just going to go to the fridge and get something out, or maybe there's something in the lunchroom and somebody's put on a nice little platter. Now, for some of you, if you've made the decision that I'm no longer going to eat X food, and that food happens to be there, if you haven't made an intrinsic desire or commitment to that, you're more likely to default to just go and eat that thing. Unless you've got a plan and a strategy, so System 2, and a conscious process and approach to that as well. So when we apply this stuff to ourselves, we can start to see the importance of planning and strategy and thinking about things being ease and convenience to change behavior. But oftentimes our clients come in, or we connect with them either over the phone if you've been in a virtual space, or been doing it via Zoom. If we're not making things feel easy and convenient and simple, our clients can get overwhelmed and therefore not engage in a change process. So the whole context of this program is really deep diving into our System 1 and getting an approach that allows people to get into that System 2 as well. And I just wanted to start with this space because I think this is a really, to me, when I think about change and motivation, the key here is creating autonomy for change and intrinsic autonomy. Now, I want to assure you, all the science is in the program, so there's a whole lot of other videos and lots of content in this context. But as I start to think about what will have my clients begin to change, if it becomes intrinsic and something they can have autonomy over, but also that they might have control over, they're more likely to stick to that change. So what do I mean by that? So if you're thinking about, actually, I'll give you an example. I was training some new trainers. We're delivering the Bounce program in a local prison, and the trainers are coming in. And in the context of, for them, their participants have not got a lot of autonomy. So they have a wake up time, an eating time, recreation time, and lights out time. So we've got to find intrinsic or internal autonomous behavior. So where they can find their way forward, they are more likely to be driven to that change. So when we think about what they can be in control of, it's going to be their thinking, or it's going to be how they might process or feel through. So thinking about that is really important when we think about our engagement with our clients and how we begin to engage them in the process of behavior change. So you all would be familiar with the stages of change and how we move from being, not even thinking about change, like it's pre-contemplative. I don't know what I don't know. And until we introduce that as a coach, we can start to think about what's the change that might be required. Now, I mentioned decision-making, and the simple, easy approach to that is that when we think about making an offer of ideas or solutions with our clients, oftentimes if we have 2 or 3 options, we can find the one that we might want. But if we think about all the choices we might have, like when you walk into that room and into the kitchen and you see lots of food choices, you might have an overwhelming sense. Now, couple that with our decrease in dopamine, or we're tired and fatigued, we didn't get a good night's sleep, there's a whole lot going on, and then suddenly evening time comes and we've got to make a decision. We're more likely to go to quick and easy food and the drive-through or the takeaway. That's not great for us, and we know that, but behaviourally, system one just goes, but that's just easy, so let's just do it. So I think it's a really important thing to think about our clients and how decision-making, changing behaviour, it's got to be done in bite-sized pieces. It isn't about, when we think about a resume and we think, if you say to a client, hey, can you work on your resume? Or they say, I'm going to work on my resume, and they go away, they come back and they didn't work on their resume. The thing to think about here is that if it's like the context of saying, I want you to write a 5,000 word assignment, it's due by Monday, and I want you to talk about wellbeing in the workplace. Now, for some of you, you may have experience in that context, but for other people, that might be overwhelming, and it's suddenly thousands of words, and it's like, that's a lot of work. So if I nudge it down, and I might just simply say to my client, what are your strengths? I want you to reflect on what you are good at, or what's energized you when you've worked in the past. And we talk about strengths and values inside the program and dive into all of those things that really build out how to become more employable. But what's great is that that client can go away and have that reflection or that thought. It's one little piece that they can then engage and take action on. Now, immediately, once they take action, there's a reward. They feel good and they come to you and say, hey, here's what I've got. And we now are changing behavior in a really lovely way. And it's less about like, go get a job or do your resume. It's actually them becoming intrinsically motivated. And again, there's autonomy there. So they are in control of that versus you're in control of it. So we know with psychological needs, the autonomy, competency, and relatedness, these are the three things that really allow someone to feel connected, engaged, and more likely to stick to the process of what they want to be doing and changing as well. So I thought I'd start with that because I think it's a really big piece to the core fundamentals of what we're doing inside the program, so you can understand the system. So we also have, and I'll just stop sharing my screen. Great. So we also have some other areas of where we really start the whole focus of the clear state, but also there's curiosity and exploration is another module. And all of that is the science. So understanding what are the foundational parts of this program. And when we understand things like the system 1, system 2, emotional intelligence, self-determination theory, when we start to pull all those together, growth mindset, fixed mindset, we start to see the impact of how we can coach to the outcome. Remember, the power of coaching is in the quality of the questions that we're asking. And so when we begin to advise or tell, we're actually moving into them not being autonomous in the decision-making and the intrinsic change. So the beauty of this is that you become the program, especially as you go into modules 3 and 4, the tools are there for you to just simply use. So we've developed the models. So you're not thinking about, are they intrinsically motivated? Do I ask that question the right way? We've put that all in there for you as well. I am going to respond with, just check some of these questions that are in the box. And if you have any questions, pop them in there, or I'm happy to take questions if anyone wants to take themselves off. So I think, yes, reframing. Shannon, thank you. It is reframing, cognitive behavioural therapy. So a lot of, so my background, I have a Bachelor of Social Science. So my big passion has been in the behavioural sciences. And I did my major in counselling and human resources. And so a lot of my deep dive has been around behaviour change on a macro level. Like, how do we change behaviour in groups, and how do we create those nudges? So nudge theory is something we explore in here. And a lot of what I'm talking about with Daniel Kahneman, and Helen's popped the book in there, the Thinking Fast and Slow, is his nudge concepts. And since then, Cass Sustein's written a book on nudging, and I have totally gone blank on the co-author, who's actually the one that won the Nobel Prize. But either way, there's lots of resources inside the program to know the books and all of that. So one of the elements of reframing, it's actually a brilliant coaching tool, and it's a simple tool to have somebody think differently. So we have a thing inside the program called the 7 Wonders. Now, the 7 Wonders are the power questions that you can ask your clients. So again, we want to drive intrinsic motivation and intrinsic change, that it's their change for them. Because when somebody doesn't have autonomy, they're just going to do the behavior, but then probably stop. Or we look at their fear, they're moving towards something or away from something motivation. How do I work with somebody that's away from? How do I motivate them? Which, by the way, research shows isn't long-term stickable, versus going towards something which is about their intrinsic desire to pleasure. Like, what do I get out of this? So our questions that we have inside the 7 Wonders really help you to elicit the information that becomes intrinsic for your clients. So they change for them, they're not changing for somebody else. And we've got a whole layer of how we might frame those things up, or reframe, or pre-frame as well. So I will just read, I've just had a direct message. Yes, so what is the most practical evidence? Okay, so I will speak to one of these questions and hopefully I answer this as well. So one of the elements of looking at the outlook. So I'm currently doing my master's in positive psychology, and what's been and I'm loving the space of positive psychology, because it is so much about the strengths. It's about the positive emotion, positive focus. And it's not, there are no weeds, or like, let's pretend bad isn't happening. It's actually really powerful to lean into coaching from a flourishing point of view, leaning into our clients to find what's great for them. So I in our clear state, the first module, we talk about how our filter of a person can impact how we coach them. So I love to say, if I see potential in my clients, regardless of the stories and where they're from and what they have or don't have, it's about seeing potential in that client. And so from that point of view, I'm coming from that point of seeing the best in them, because ultimately, if they can live their best life, they're going to flourish. And all the evidence and research really leans into that space. So as a coach, the more we're filling up our cup, and this is where the Pearl system really breaks this down, is what are you doing to self-care? What's your energy level? How are you focusing? What's your self-talk? What's your process and ritual to get into your sessions? How are you preparing? All of the things that lean into that, and the power of listening, really help us to become fully engaged in ourselves and fully engaged with our clients as well. And I'm a big one for making sure you have closure at the end of a session and you reset to the next session as well. And this is really crucial to your own well-being. And I know that most of you on here, and I see a couple of names of people that were on some of my sessions last year, I know that the value that you come in with is the care, is the make a difference, is the have an impact. And I love that's what draws you into the sector, to want to give and want to help. What that can mean is that sometimes you'll give so much that your cup is empty, and you get to the end of the day and you have empathy fatigue. And Paul Bloom has done a body of research on empathy fatigue, and it's a real thing, that if we give so much that suddenly we're in system 1, we're not in our system 2, and we can be quite tired. So we're going to go for defaults. We're going to go to the biases. We're going to go to automatic thinking, because that's just what conserves energy. So when we are not taking care of ourselves and filling up our cup, we're actually putting the quality of our connection with our client at risk, and their opportunity for growth as well. So self-care, absolute priority. And I'm a huge believer in you take care of you in order to give to others as well. And then you're flourishing also. So, okay, I will read Simon. I'm working within a welfare to work program. And a shift to achieving outcomes, i.e. job starts. In your opinion, does your methodology complement a target-driven campaign? Okay, so I will say this, Simon, this is really interesting. So we delivered this program with a provider that is in the disability sector, employment service provider. And there are a lot of KPIs and placements, and over here in Australia, it's, you know, placement is the outcome payment. So a lot of consultants and coaches have the KPIs. I wanted to reframe that. So I think that the distinction of, you know, getting this outcome focus into how many lives can I change? How many lives can I impact? Because we all know when we work, we are flourishing, we are happier. As human beings, work brings so much meaning and purpose, as long as it's a fit that matches on either on the wage job or to the job we want to have. What's interesting is with this particular group, we reframed what they were experiencing as these KPIs, this like, we have to get these numbers. So then it became, well, what's important to you and what's the impact you want to have? So they owned the language around how many lives can we change, whose life can we spark and open up to be different. One of the guys whose average placements per month was 4, after Job Coach, he went to 10 a month. And he said, I just applied all the methodology within the program to my clients. What he was able to achieve is more information in less time, meaning quality, high quality connection and high quality conversations. And he had momentum and movement to the outcome of them moving into employment. So we do have very specific strategies on how to raise that. If there's resistance, how do I deal with somebody who's not wanting to lean in? How do I influence their thinking to say, maybe a job's interesting? And there's a reframe, there's questions. We have this beautiful tool called the language of influence, and how we can use that so our clients can begin to intrinsically think through what they want to be thinking about. Remembering at the base is when we have our system 1, our clients may be feeling overwhelmed and stressed. They're going to be in system 1. As a coach, we want to nudge them gently into system 2 and getting them to start thinking about planning their future as well. Young people entering the world of work. Michelle, yes, absolutely. So definitely when we think about, I'll actually give you a really good example. My 16-year-old son, he was, you know, wanting to develop some skills. I said, oh, hey, Lucas, I'd love for you to do the Bounce Job Coach program. And I'm just curious to get your feedback to go through. And I thought it would be interesting for, you know, a 16-year-old to go through the program. What was incredible is he'd gotten a job at a local sports store, and he started applying his learnings of the modules into working, because he was thinking about how he could apply these strategies in the context of customer service. And it was really lovely to have him go take a concept, take it to work, apply it, and then come back and talk through and see how that works. So absolutely, the skills in here, every young person should be given, especially going into work, because it's going to allow them, the job coach piece is definitely for those that want to learn coaching skills to help others, and those young people that might be looking at that. We have a program, we run our program in New Zealand to a beautiful social enterprise, and all of the coaches, the trainers over there are 17, 18, 19, 20, they're young. And they've engaged in this content, and they've engaged in their own learning and their own adaptation of how they can apply this to working with other young people as well. So I'll just check if there's any more questions. I also wanted to speak to something that I think is really important here. There's a huge body of research around the negativity bias and how our system 1 by default has a negativity bias simply because we're wired for safety. It's part of the amygdala's protection mechanism to say, is this safe? Will I get hurt? Could I die here? So it's a very old part of our brain. But what happens here is that the negativity bias means by default, we often scan for negativity. So this is why in the context of social media, doom scrolling, or, you know, when there's a lot of bad news, people will be drawn to it unless they make a decision not to be. But by default, we will often go to the headline that's clickbait, right? The headline that's the scariest or the worst or the horrible, because our brain goes there to go, just check if it's safe. Now, what that means is that even as coaches, we need to be aware of that negativity bias and how it could bias how we're seeing our clients. So if our client comes in and they left school early, they have no work history, or perhaps they've had a work history that's not great, or perhaps have some things on their record that aren't positive. So if we have our negative bias not aware of it, if we go to the default, we may actually find ourselves defaulting to going, oh yeah, they're not going to get work. And so if that's our thinking, which is a default, so it's okay. Like I want to be really clear, like this is humanness. If we go to that default, we may find ourselves behaviourally communicating differently with that person. So this is our own process of saying, how am I showing up in this coaching context? How am I engaging in this coaching context with my clients as well? So just having a check on your own negativity bias is important, but your clients. So some of those biases that we have in that system one, the availability bias, that means that who they've been talking to, spending time with, where they listen for their information. If their circle of influence is, don't work for that place, or there are no jobs, or that those people are out to get us, if that's their conversations, that becomes the availability bias. Meaning when I say, hey, what kind of work are you looking for? Their default may go to that like, oh, there are no jobs that I want, or I would never work there. And then that narrative becomes, the story that's told, and they may lack motivation to go and work in that place. So it's really important as a coach that we unpack what might seem like a resistance, or it might seem like I don't want to do this. Get curious. And we talk a lot about that in the program, is the power of curiosity over judgment. In fact, the minute we can get curious about something, our brain engages in the process really differently versus holding judgment. And we have a really good example in the program around listening to a story and noticing our judgments that might be occurring. In fact, I'm happy to do a little bit of a social experiment with the group right now. And just in terms of your own defaults, like as we've started here, when I talked about Australia, what was some default thinking, the automatics that you might have had about, oh, I'm down in Australia? And we do, Simon, yeah, we need negativity bias to some extent to manage our finite time. We need to have a sense of noticing those things. So it's not a bad thing. It's just being aware of it. But I'd love to know some of your, what was your defaults that came in as I started talking? If I was talking about Australia, what are your reference point? Wish I was back in Australia. There you go, Darren, we're open up. People can come here now. Lucky you. Thanks, Michelle. I say lucky you guys. I can't wait to be there. I've got to tell you, last year when I had a group, I was so excited, and I hope for those that are on this session that I was on the sessions last year, I do hope I get to meet you all. My default was I miss my son as he lives in Melbourne with my granddaughter. Oh, yeah, see that I know well, I hope you can get out and see him and your granddaughter. Sunshine, funnel web spiders, bad at cricket. Did I just read bad at cricket? So now my biases are like, wait a minute. Maybe cheats, we could say that, right? Or that's in the past. Let's not say that anymore. I was concerned for you with all of the flooding. Thank you so much, Tammy. And scary wildlife, spiders and snakes. Yes. So I think what's interesting is, again, I just want you to reflect on the biases. So where does it come from? Where are our experiences? Having spent so much time in the US, and because for those that have spent time in the US, I was in high school over there for a year, and I went there in 1988, and I was 16 or 15 and turned 16. 1988, it was right after the Crocodile Dundee. And so being over in America as an Australian, and my American brother-in-law had said, oh, Maria, the passport to your friendships will be your accent. And I was 15 from a little country town. I had no idea what he meant. And so when I got over to Seattle and I went to high school, to a crazy high school, huge high school, I was used to like a tiny little country school. And I walked in and, no one was really paying attention until one of the girls said, oh, this is Maria, she's from Australia. And they were like, say something. And in that moment, I was like, wow, what am I going to say? So I just went, g'day. And of course, I didn't realize, like, I was just like being an Australian. And of course, they were like, oh, and they just love that. But all these biases, as far as like their defaults, they're just their defaults. They're automatics. that were occurring based on their watching the movie Crocodile Dundee. So of course the generalizations come into that, you know, that, oh, do you have kangaroos jumping down your street? Which actually we do, because there's a little rural area, so we have had that. But in downtown Melbourne, no. Canberra, yes. But all of those experiences, like the spiders and the snakes, and we've got 19 breeds of deadly snakes here. So if you've watched a wildlife program out of Australia, you'll see all that, and that becomes part of the experience as well. So it's interesting when we bring awareness to these little defaults or to these biases, because when we think about our clients, it's about asking the questions to nudge them into the thinking, into that prefrontal cortex, or that system 2, to really start self-reflecting, but energizing that as well. Okay, so I'm actually going to go and I'll just check if there's any other chats. I'm going to ask a quick question. What do you think is one of your greatest challenges with working with your clients? What's one of the greatest challenges you face? And you can chat in there, send me a direct message, and I won't say your name, I can read it out. Or you can turn yourself off speaker. Time. Oh, Deborah, yes. So it's interesting in the context of time. Can I actually, Deborah, are you okay to go off speaker for me? Would you be comfortable to do that? Are you, oh, maybe you're not allowed to.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I'm off mic now. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just unpack that. And I just want to use a little bit of, I'm curious about it. And so in this context, I just want to get curious about this idea of time. So tell me more about how time impacts the biggest challenge you face.
It's just with caseload sizes and back-to-back appointments, and I'd like to have more time to prep. So, and I mean, I do get to know my participants, but I sometimes just don't feel I'm doing them a justice. So I try and compensate by seeing them more frequently, instead of giving them more time initially. So yeah, I do. I just feel guilty. It doesn't happen all the time. And I picked up on the first thing that one of the first things you said earlier was, who am I being as a coach, and am I the barrier to the outcome? And I think my time, my prep, sometimes is that barrier. I am that barrier because I haven't done what I need to do. I haven't spent the time. So you've hit a raw nerve with me.
Oh, Deborah. Well, do you know what? What's really great? I love that. I love that you're leaning into that, because the reality is caseloads are high, you know, and people are having to have multiple plates in the air. And when it comes to you being with your client, you want to have that really authentic, strong bond connection, so you can actually coach to the outcome that serves them. So I'm curious, what could you change in your day that would give you more time?
What could I change? I think sometimes I'm sitting there listening to them, and I could be typing up some of the notes or whatever, so I'm not so rushed. There are things I can be doing whilst I'm still listening, because I can listen. I am quite a good listener. So I think I've just got to work smart, as my son would say, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah,
that's what I need to do.
Yeah, and do you know, there's one of the, well, in Pearls we cover, Al is listening, and some strategies and tools with that. There's a whole, we've actually got scripts inside this program that actually help you to script out to gather the information. And it's kind of like the high value information that allows your clients to begin to intrinsically motivate. Because ideally as a coach, we want them to find that power or that decision or that motivation or that desire as well. So if you were to have more prep time before a meeting, how much time would you need to prep before you even go and catch up with a client?
Only five minutes, not long. Not long, because I make detailed notes. Yeah, not long.
So if you have 5 minutes of prep to prepare the brain and prep to getting curious about what am I exploring here, do you think that would allow you to have less time with your clients?
It would allow me to have, yes, less time, but better time. Quality time.
The quality is the key. We have over here in Australia, we have providers that are doing 15-minute appointments. And like 15 minutes is like, I remember working with this one provider and I was like, 15 minutes, like, wow. But what I think is really interesting, and I certainly don't support that, but if that's something you've got to do, what's interesting is when we say, I've got 15 minutes, what's the high stuff that I need to know, the high quality information I need to know in order to serve my client? Like my mantra always is this, you know, how can I serve? And when I go into that space, the questions and then the responses and the listening off. So not talking over the top, we talk a lot about the strategies for that, but actually being totally in the listening of that client. What's incredible is that when we move into that flow state, we're actually more likely to capture even more information in less time. So we do a little bit of filler, right? There's a whole lot of filler stuff that actually, if we can engage, build rapport, and we talk about all the rapport stuff in the program, but if we engage and build that rapport, we can actually take what might be a long session to a shorter period of time. So, so even adding that 5 minutes prep time, what we're doing, Deborah, is your brain is actually engaging system 2, and it's getting curious to say, what do I need to find out here to help support my client?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
yeah, absolutely, no worries. Okay, so, oh great. Susanna has said attendance, if you don't come to the meeting, how can I help? So that's a really interesting one. So one of the pieces we do actually talk about in the program is how do we actually get buy-in to attend and to want to be part of that? And it's always interesting when we ask questions, if someone's missed a meeting or a time to catch up, is to get curious about, not ask why. So one of our rules is we don't ask why. And why is a counseling focus? Why goes to the past and why goes to history? Why is powerful in other contexts, but in a coaching context, we want to ask questions about, hey, you know, what happened with our catch up last week? Did something happen, or what impacted this? Not why didn't you attend? It can have them interpret and experience the interaction differently. But you could ask, how can I support you in getting to our meetings on time? What support do you need? What if you came on time? What would that mean to you? So there's a whole process of asking questions to find out and get curious about what stopped them from attending. And it could be something as simple as, you know, there might be reasons and excuses, but we might be able to really dig down into their buy-in to come to the next meeting and the next time as well. So we have a nice little process inside the program around really finding a way to engage someone to want to be there. So again, if it's autonomous, not I have to go to this meeting or I'll get cut off or lose a payment or get in trouble, but to have it autonomous to go, I actually want to be here because it's what's in it for me, and finding that driver, that intrinsic driver as well. So let's have a look. How much time have we got? We've got a few more minutes. So where am I? Establishing the best approach to help the individual. Oh, Simon, one of the pieces of this program is the personalization, and that is one of the really important nudges, is things must be personalized. So when we think about model of the world, if I'm coaching someone, regardless of where they're from and their walk of life, I am coaching who is in front of me. I have to be aware of my biases. I have to be mindful of my distractions or a judgment. And I might just go, interesting judgment, park it, get curious. And I don't have time, but I could tell you so many stories where noticing, even if I have judgment, I just get curious about, oh, what's having them do that behavior. Now, personalization is really important, that we don't make a generalization. It's about the person in front of me. So we're looking at the words they're using, the tone that they use, their body language, what lights them up, you know, what's important to them. We look at values, we look at strengths. What are the drivers that has that person want to do something? In fact, we don't really talk about goals till later, because we can gather so much information by asking somebody, what's important to you in the work you do? And even before you go, what job do you want, is ask what's important to you in the work you do. And they go, I don't know. You can say, Well, if you did know, what would it be? Or when you worked in the past, what did you love about the last job you had? And then you're going to elicit values. And we unpack all the pieces about values and how incredibly powerful values are. When you get your values right, your strengths and purpose, happiness, right? All things work. So looking young. Temi, I don't know what that means as a barrier. Oh, you mean that you look younger, so some of your clients are like, you're too young to know? Have I just made that up? Am I on the right track? Yes. Okay, yeah. So that's an interesting one. So I remember delivering this training with a group, and I had one of the girls she was probably 21, and she would be coaching, and she said, oh, Maria, the challenge I have is I get a bloke who's 45, and he's sitting there going, can you tell me about work? You haven't worked as much as me. And you know, she would have this exchange. And I said to her, I want you to lean in to get curious about them, because that gave her a bit of a trigger. So again, her brain goes to, oh my gosh, I'm getting judged. So she's got to take care of herself when she goes in to have meetings with particular clients. But what really shifted for her is that she started to ask lots more questions, going, I know, but can I just ask you a few questions? I get it. Yeah, I'm only young, but I actually want to support you. What do you want to do? What's important to you? She had a guy who hadn't worked in 10 years, and she engaged in this process in asking questions and gathering what we call his model of the world. So how did his reality, what did he see, feel, hear, and experience? And from there, he went into employment. And she said what changed for her was a bit of her own belief, because it was limiting her. She believed that she was too young to support him, or she looked too young, right? And so what she had to do is reframe who she was as a coach as well. Reframing is so powerful. I was just running a session today, a job coach session, and one of the girls is doing all her sessions over the phone, and she just said, oh, I just don't engage, Maria. It's not the same. And I said, oh, when you talk to your family, tell me about what happens. And she said, oh, I get on and it's just, you know, so amazing, and we're connected and I love them. It's my family. And I said, and she lit up. And I said, so I hear your tone and your energy level. What if you could have that when you pick up the phone to call your clients? And she goes, oh, they're my clients. And I was like, but do you notice the difference in your energy level? So sorry, this was actually 2 weeks ago, and today we had our follow-up session as a group. And she came on and I said, how did you go? She goes, it's so different. Now I'm connecting with my clients, but their energy is engaging with me differently. What changed was her, not them, right? She realized where she was being that barrier as well. So our beliefs about ourselves affect our outcome. And you'll explore that in module 1 as well. Okay, let me read another one. This is really great for one of my groups. We're dealing with a lot of people failing to attend a meeting for job scheme. Yep, no worries. Thanks, Shannon. That's great. Trying to help people with significant mental issues, PTSD, who are waiting for treatment, counselling from health services. Not being a mental health specialist, I'm concerned about making their mental health worse. Lorna, brilliant question, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I always think it's important that, again, because of this, and positive psychology has just got so much research sitting underneath it. In fact, I started studying a master's of mental health, and I found myself personally not like going, oh, it's a real medical model. Like, this isn't inspiring. And so I moved over to the master's of positive psych, and I'm like loving it, because it's the way we focus on the outcome. So sometimes our clients need support, and sometimes that's not our role, and we need to get them into that service and that support. The best thing you can be doing is there's a great thing called hope theory. Hope theory is the idea that when I have agency, a sense of confidence, and when I have a pathway and a goal, I'm more likely to lean in and create that happening. So high hope is something that allows people to be normal functioning. I've got life working. When we're talking about somebody who's having mental health issues or PTSD, we've actually got to really chunk it down to just the simplest things that can fill up their cup. So even a reflection on strengths is a nice, simple process. And again, the negativity bias is going to default to that won't work. I can't do that. It's too hard. So as a coach, it's just holding that compassion and holding that space. If somebody's really needing that deeper service. Where you can as a coach is just keep reminding them in that context of strengths and values and where to next. And the quality of those questions can nudge their thinking to that outcome as well. So Lorna, I hope that helps, but I think it's really important that the key here, and we talk about this in the program, there are words that can trigger. So we don't use trigger words in our conversations. You don't ask the question of when did you have trauma? They're like, no, that's not coaching. That's a past thing. So we talk about going forward and forward to the coaching. So the future piece is really important as a coach as well. So Lorna, I hope that helps as well. So so amazing. I'll lean into this advantage. Didn't realize it was an advantage. It is an advantage. Yay. I love that. Okay. So what I might do, thank you so much. I just wanted to throw it out and see if there's any more questions or anything you want to understand a little bit more about the program and how it's working. So I'm excited by our partnership here. And it's been quite a while that we've been developing this and working together. So, and this is exclusive to IEP. So no one else in the UK has it. And we're just so excited to be able to be working together and delivering that. So I will I think one of the things we've got is a bit of a promotion, and I don't know whether Helen or Scott, you want to jump on, but one of the things we do have going is that I will be doing, it's more of a different kind of thing, but live Zoom sessions if you do a particular packaging as well. And I do believe we might have that tonight as far as if you're signing up to do the program. And you'll get free access to that. I think there might be a certain number of seats. So the live Zoom sessions are basically like this, except the difference is you would have gone through the content. We start unpacking it and applying the content to your specific context. And I think that's what's really important. So it's personalized. You come in with the challenges you're facing, or you think, hey, Marie, here's the challenge I've got. Here's an issue, or hey, what do I do with this client? And how can I engage them? So the live sessions really offer that opportunity to be able to get more distinctions on what it is that you need as well. So I don't know, Scott, if you had anything else you wanted to add in that context.
Yeah, no, I put in the chat, if you want more information, please reach out via the email. Most people use those emails anyway. Yeah, we have a special promotion. Those first 10 people that sign up for the development program will receive some free coaching with Maria, which is what she's talking about. There are lots and lots of different options throughout this, and it's not worth me going into that in a moment. Just reach out and we'll give you some kind of pricing plans and some opportunity to understand. Each of the elements build upon each other. So there's the pearls to start with, there's the job coach, there's the pearls and job coach, and then there's pearls, job coach, and Maria mentoring, supporting, coaching sessions. So there's lots and lots of opportunity to engage kind of at all different price points and all different settings in terms of how much support you need. But we're really, really excited about this. It's fantastic. I was late to come on camera because I was going to post something on LinkedIn about bringing coaching to the employability sector for the first time. I'm really excited about this. And it's a key skill. It really is. And we have some wonderful learning that a lot of you are already engaged in at the moment, but we do touch coaching in that learning so far lightly. And this kind of goes full on, this is how you do it. And more importantly than anything, it's not coaching in a kind of theoretical kind of point of view. This is coaching for employability. So it's coaching within this setting with job seekers, supporting people to change attitudes and enable them to move on. So I was personally really interested by the performance related KPI question and the philosophy you came back with enabling, in essence, the end result to be the same, but changing the mindset of the coach also in terms of turning that into something that is valuable to them. So I've been really excited. I love listening to you, Maria, constantly. I wish we could have a call like this every day. It feels like there's real purpose and it's really, really positive. But if there are no more questions, everyone's saying thank you.
Hi, Scott. We have had a question and it might be worth answering now. How they're all clicking past now, so it's moved out of my line of sight. How often are the sessions going to be, the sessions when we run them with Maria, and for how long? as I need to know before I can fully commit. And I just think it might be worthwhile just sort of explaining a little bit what that might be like for everyone for the Job Coach Plus package.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the number of people, and Maria can run sessions for as long or as short as required. I think under the Job Coach Plus model, I think we were talking with starting with 4 sessions, weren't we, Maria?
Yeah. So the sessions run for an hour. But again, I mean, you know, if we run over that hour, we run over that hour. Those sessions run for an hour, and we run, they're done on a monthly basis. So again, because it is an on-demand, you can go through the program and the modules. You could join those group coaching sessions as well, if you want the plus version. But again, I think there's 10 spots that are going as far as like joining up after this, or I'm not sure, an email will go out. But yeah, those sessions go for that hour. So, but again, it'll be a monthly piece, and it'll obviously be a time, probably this time, which is going to work to people's calendar, and we'd have it at that same time each month.
Excellent, thank you. And Simon said, wasn't there info on an initial free group session advertised, or is this wrong? I believe it was, Simon. I think you're right, because we did say there would be an introductory and exclusive offer for those who booked first. Yep. And we will, yes, we will be sending out an email directly to everybody who asked us to give more information around that.
Yep, great.
Any more questions? Lots of thanks, Maria, as normal. Your sessions are always fantastic, but we've run over about a minute over now, and I'm sure
I know.
You need to get the rest of your evening.
Oh, good. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully I get to meet people in June when I'm over there. So I'll just meet everyone. Okay, so when I talk about generalizations, I'm like, it's only small, right? You're a small country. I'll be able to meet everyone.
if there isn't any other incentive to get to the IEP Summit this year, which is our 3rd annual summit, then the incentive should be to meet Maria. Absolutely. So we'll look forward to welcoming Maria there to the UK and to the IEP Summit. We'll look forward to welcoming all of you. And I really do hope you pick up this opportunity for some incredible coaching skills with this partnership with Bounce in Australia. So thank you very much for now. We'll let you get on with your day. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Helen. Thank you, everyone that's been involved in this. And we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Forgive the pun, Maria, but I'm going to have to bounce.